Hi, I'm Jackson. Welcome back to Animal Encounters. Today, we're covering 6 stories where Karens get eaten by deadly animals. From a lifestyle blogger in Thailand who paid cash to hold a king cobra to a British travel influencer in India who pushed through a restricted gate at a tiger facility. But first, let's start with the first story, where a broker was attacked by a Nile crocodile. On September 14, 2015, near the Okavango Delta in northern Botswana, the water moved quietly through the reeds just before sunrise. Mist hung low over the channels, and the only sounds came from insects, distant birds, and the soft scrape of a wooden mokoro cutting through shallow water. Marceline Thwaite, 43, a real estate broker from Savannah, Georgia, had arrived at a remote safari camp 4 days earlier as part of a guided wilderness package. The camp specialized in close-range mokoro excursions through narrow delta channels where wildlife often moved directly beside the boats. From the moment she checked in, Marceline had established the kind of presence that camp staff recognized immediately. Someone who had arrived with her own complete theory of how things worked and no interest in adjusting it. During orientation and later excursions, Marceline repeatedly questioned safari safety rules and challenged guides over restricted boundaries, arguing the protocols and marked limits were unnecessary, despite repeated instructions from staff. That evening, she approached the waterline after dark with her camera. When a staff member redirected her and told her that particular waterline was different, she thanked him and went inside. The camp's pre-departure log for the following morning included a notation about her under a shorthand used for guests, requiring additional attention. The excursion launched just after dawn, with 6 guests and lead guide Cabello Dintle, 37, operating across 2 mokoros through a dense section of papyrus channels, known for heavy wildlife activity. Before departure, Cabello delivered his briefing. Remain seated at all times, no camera equipment extending beyond the hull's profile, no standing or leaning regardless of what is spotted. He added one specific note that morning. The channels ahead ran alongside established basking areas, and the reed banks should be treated as live margins at all times. When Marceline said she found the seated rule difficult to work with for photography and that she had done mokoro excursions before, Cabello acknowledged that and told her the rule was the same on this one. About 40 minutes into the excursion, Cabello stopped the lead mokoro in a narrow papyrus channel and signaled everyone to stay low and completely still after spotting a faint disturbance along the reed bank, movement he immediately recognized as something far more dangerous than wind or current. Nile crocodiles are among the most dangerous predators in Africa and are present throughout the Okavango Delta system in significant numbers. Adults in the delta regularly exceed 12 feet in length and can weigh upward of 900 pounds. They are ambush predators of extraordinary patience, capable of holding position just below the surface, with virtually no visible sign of their presence, eyes and nostrils barely above the waterline for extended periods. In narrow channels, they position themselves along reed banks and wait. Their strike is not a chase. It is a single, explosive lunge from stillness that closes the gap between concealment and contact in under a second. When they make contact with a target in the water, they immediately initiate a death roll, a rotational technique that disorients, incapacitates, and pulls the target below the surface. It is designed to end the encounter before it begins. Marceline saw Cabello signal the stop. She rose partially from her seated position and lifted her camera to angle it toward the reed bank where he had been looking. Cabello told her, in a low and direct voice, "Sit down, now." Ignoring Cabello's warning, Marceline leaned over the front of the mokoro to extend her camera toward the water, causing the hull to dip toward the reeds where a crocodile hidden less than 4 feet away exploded from the water, dragged her into the channel in a single violent strike, and later led to a recovery operation that confirmed a fatal Nile crocodile predatory attack. Botswana wildlife authorities reviewed the incident fully. Cabello Dintle's conduct throughout the excursion was found appropriate and entirely consistent with safari regulations. Officials noted in their summary that a direct verbal warning had been issued by the guide at the exact moment of the incident and had not been followed. What makes this case difficult to process is how little space there was between the warning and the outcome. Cabello told her to sit down at the same moment the crocodile was within striking range of the hull. She looked back at him, told him she was fine, and leaned toward the water. The animal had been there the entire time, invisible, waiting for exactly that movement. She gave it one. The next story moves to a roadside operation in Thailand, where the animal was right in front of the victim. The warnings were given more than once, and the only thing that went wrong was a person who had already decided she didn't need them. On March 7, 2014, on the rural outskirts of Chiang Mai, Thailand, Priella Onstott, 36, a travel content creator from Austin, Texas, arrived at an informal animal handling property far outside the boundaries of regulated tourism. By that point, she had spent nearly 2 months moving through Southeast Asia, building content around what she described online as experiences you cannot book through a resort desk, unlicensed wildlife encounters, restricted locations, activities operating in the gaps between formal tourism systems. For Priella, difficulty of access was proof of value. The more off-limits something was, the better the content. In Chiang Mai, a contact connected her to an informal operation on the rural outskirts of the city. Cash only, no signage, no registration, no connection to any veterinary or emergency service. The featured animal that morning was a king cobra, large by the contact's account. The operator who ran the session provided instructions before it began. No sudden movements, no sharp sounds. All body repositioning to be done slowly and deliberately. Priella told him she had handled snakes in informal settings and was comfortable. When he continued with the briefing, she interrupted to say she understood. When he tried to explain the specific behavioral cues to watch for, the raised hood, the head repositioning that precedes a defensive strike, she told him she had read extensively about king cobras and appreciated the caution, but already knew what to look for. She asked whether he could adjust the camera in the corner because the light angle was wrong. He finished his briefing while she repositioned the equipment. She gave him the full attention of someone who had already stopped listening. The session ran for several minutes without incident. Priella was repositioning for a different camera angle when she made a sharp lateral movement, exactly the type of abrupt physical shift the operator had specifically and repeatedly warned against. King cobras, the world's longest venomous snakes, can reach 18 feet in length and are known to deliver repeated strikes when threatened, while their powerful neurotoxic venom attacks the nervous system so rapidly that severe envenomation can overwhelm victims before they reach medical care. The cobra struck Priella's forearm, and although the contact who arranged the visit urged her to leave for the hospital immediately, she downplayed the bite, delayed to secure her equipment and footage, and lost several critical minutes she could not recover. By the time transportation was arranged to a facility with anti-venom access, not the nearest medical center, which lacked the capability, but a hospital significantly further out, her condition had deteriorated rapidly. Neurological symptoms had progressed from localized weakness into systemic decline. She died at the hospital from complications related to the envenomation. Local authorities confirmed the operation held no permits, no anti-venom on site, and no emergency protocol of any kind. Outcome in king cobra cases depends heavily on venom yield, bite placement, and the speed of treatment. Some victims deteriorate before reaching care even when transport is fast. What worsened Priella's case was the time lost before anyone moved, time spent on her own assessment of the situation, her equipment, her certainty that she understood what was happening better than the people around her. Overconfidence in front of dangerous animals takes different forms. Sometimes it is a single snap decision. Sometimes it is a slow accumulation. A visitor who drifts a little further each time, gets corrected, and drifts again, until the line she keeps crossing is the one that closes behind her. The next case takes place in broad daylight, on a designated path, with a professional guide present for every step of it. On July 22, 2016, inside Komodo National Park on Komodo Island, Indonesia, the morning heat was already rising off the dry hills by the time guided tours began moving inland from the main dock. Rangers repeated the same instructions to every incoming group: stay on the marked path, maintain indicated distances from all animals, follow ranger commands immediately. The warnings were unusually strict for a specific reason. Komodo dragons are apex predators operating freely in their own habitat, not animals exhibited at a managed distance behind barriers. Nearly every serious injury recorded inside the park had one consistent factor: a visitor moved closer than they were told to. Blythe Carlo, 51, a retired schoolteacher from Portland, Oregon, had pivoted to travel content creation in her late 40s and built a consistent online audience around destinations she described as genuinely wild and underrepresented. She had visited 4 wildlife facilities across 3 countries in the months prior and had written publicly about handling venomous reptiles at an education center in Southeast Asia. She arrived on Komodo Island with a specific objective: footage that went beyond the standard tourist walk. Before the morning tour departed, Blythe made 4 separate requests for closer and private access beyond the designated path, but each was denied by staff and the senior ranger, who told her the rules were non-negotiable regardless of media credentials or access granted at other facilities. She joined the tour. The assigned guide that morning was Fendi Kurniawan, 28. His pre-walk briefing covered distance protocols, stave signal meanings, and how the animals respond to close-range movement. Blythe took notes and asked questions throughout. Fendi later characterized those questions in his formal report as oriented toward how close the standard walk typically gets to the animals, not toward understanding the safety rationale itself. Within the first 20 minutes, she had drifted off the path twice. Fendi redirected her both times using the stave. She returned each time without argument, and within a few minutes, drifted again. His report noted that she treated each correction as a temporary pause rather than a boundary. Approximately 40 minutes into the walk, the group encountered a large adult male resting in partial shade, roughly 30 feet from the path's edge. Fendi signaled a full stop and positioned the group at the indicated observation distance. The group gathered. Blythe moved forward. Komodo dragons are the largest living lizard species on Earth, reaching up to 10 feet in length and approximately 150 pounds. They are ambush predators. They do not signal extended intent before striking at close range. Their teeth are serrated and recurved, designed to produce lacerating, tearing wounds rather than clean punctures. A significant bite opens a wound that actively resists closure. Fendi was already moving toward her when the dragon transitioned from its resting position. The animal made contact with her lower leg and drove forward, pulling. As Blythe fell, the dragon struck again, reaching the upper thigh before Fendi drove it back with the stave. The second bite tore into the upper leg with significant force, involving arterial structures and producing immediate, severe blood loss. She was unable to bear weight. Other group members had cleared the path. Fendi applied field first aid immediately, managing blood loss while calling for evacuation. A boat was summoned to transport her to a medical facility on Flores Island, a process measured in hours given the island's remoteness. By the time advanced surgical care was accessible, the blood loss from the arterial involvement had progressed beyond the point where stabilization was achievable. She died at the Flores Medical Facility. The investigation confirmed that Fendi had followed correct procedure throughout, redirected Blythe twice before the attack, and intervened immediately when it occurred. No findings were made against park staff or operations. 3 drifts, each one a small individual decision to move a few feet past the same line. The dragon did not need her to rush it. It needed her to be close enough. On the 3rd pass, she was. The next case is a different kind of dismissal. Not a visitor who found the rules inconvenient, but a man who spent nearly a week constructing a detailed argument for why the rules were wrong. The animal at the end of that argument did not engage with the reasoning. On November 3, 2017, at a remote estuary in Australia's Northern Territory, Dusk was settling fast across a mangrove-lined waterway beside an isolated eco-lodge. The surface had already turned dark and unreadable in the fading light, and along the accessible bank, multiple warning signs stood posted yards apart, each specifically noting confirmed saltwater crocodile activity in that exact stretch of water. Wildlife officers had logged sightings there within the previous month. Lodge staff repeated the danger verbally to guests on arrival, at meals, and at any point when someone approached the bank, not as a liability script, but because in northern Australia, saltwater crocodiles are not theoretical hazards located somewhere deep in the wilderness. They live in the water people walk beside every day. Desmond was a business consultant from Brisbane. He had traveled widely, both professionally and personally, and had described portions of his career to lodge staff as time spent in genuinely hazardous environments. He was not hostile in his interactions. He was dismissive. Within the first 2 days of his stay, he had identified the estuary warning signs as what he called risk theater and engaged the lodge's senior staff member in a structured conversation about whether a crocodile had been definitively confirmed in the specific stretch of water directly beside the property. The staff member confirmed, yes. Over the following 4 days, staff redirected him from the bank twice during low-light hours. Both times, he engaged lodge personnel in extended discussions about statistical probability of attack in that specific section of waterway, as opposed to crocodile habitat in general. Both interactions were logged. On the evening of November 3rd, the light over the estuary was dropping fast. Dusk in the Northern Territory in early November closes in sharply. The surface shifts from readable to flat and opaque within minutes. A lodge staff member, aware of Desmond's established pattern near the bank, went specifically to the bank path to locate him. He found him there, camera pointed toward the water. The instruction was direct. Do not approach the water. Desmond acknowledged it. The staff member returned to the lodge. Desmond did not follow. Saltwater crocodiles are the largest living reptile species on Earth. Adult males in Australian estuaries regularly exceed 16 feet in length and can weigh over 1,000 pounds. They are ambush predators defined by patience, capable of remaining almost completely submerged, with only eyes and nostrils above the waterline, for extended periods with no surface movement indicating their position to an observer on the bank. Their strike from a stationary position closes distance in under a second. Investigators reconstructed the scene from physical evidence. His remains were recovered the following morning. A large adult saltwater crocodile was identified in the area consistent with the scene evidence. The animal was not destroyed. Wildlife authorities confirmed it had behaved entirely within documented natural parameters for its species in its territory at that time of day. The lodge's protocols and the staff members' conduct on the evening of November 3rd were reviewed and fully cleared. Desmond had understood the risk, characterized it publicly as exaggerated for 6 days, and waded in anyway. The Northern Territory has a way of answering that conclusion. From the water entirely, to open country, to the pale, wide bush of Zimbabwe, where the danger was visible from far enough away to stop it, where the guide tried everything he had, and where the person who died was not the one who walked forward. On April 19, 2015, in the Hwange district of western Zimbabwe, the dry season bush stretched pale and open beneath a clear morning sky. Visibility across the grassland was excellent, which is exactly why walking safaris in the region operate under strict rules about distance, positioning, and movement around wildlife. In open terrain with good sightlines, trained guides have enough time to read animal behavior and route away from escalation entirely. That system works only if the people following the guide actually stop when they are told to stop. Celestia Vanbro, 48, an interior designer from Chicago, had arranged a private walking safari through a licensed operator and had been in the bush since April 16th. She had specifically requested walking format during the booking process, describing a preference for ground-level, immersive wildlife contact. During that same booking call, she had asked multiple times whether the excursion could get her closer than the standard tour, and was told the distance protocols were fixed. She asked again at check-in. She was told again. The operator assigned their most experienced walking guide to the engagement, Amukelo Sitali, 31, fully certified, with 8 years of walking safari experience in the Hwanghae area. By the second day, Sitali had begun radioing concerns to base camp. His documented communications, reviewed in full during the investigation, showed that Celestia was consistently advancing past his indicated stop positions, closing distance to animals beyond recommended margins, and failing to hold when he signaled. On April 17th, after a full hold near a group of warthogs, she moved toward them, and he physically repositioned between her and the animals. She told him they were warthogs, not predators, and that he was being excessive. On April 18th, while he maintained a standoff observation of a small elephant family he had not yet cleared for approach, she tried to move around him for a better camera angle. He blocked her and told her he would call the approach when he had confirmed it was safe. She told him she had been on multiple walking safaris, that she could read when an elephant was relaxed, and that she was paying for a walking safari, not a standing still safari. He told her, calmly and without escalation, that she had hired him specifically to make this call. On the morning of April 19th, conditions were clear and dry with good visibility across open ground. At approximately 7:15 a.m., Sitali identified a small elephant herd in a tree line approximately 200 feet ahead. The group included adult females and at least one calf. He signaled a full halt and indicated they should angle left, the standard protocol for a close encounter with a breeding herd, designed to give the animals space and time to move off without pressure. Celestia moved forward. African elephants are the largest land animals on Earth. Adult females regularly reach 7,000 pounds or more. At up to 25 miles per hour, a charging elephant covers open ground far faster than a human can clear it on foot. The matriarch of a breeding herd with a calf treats a direct forward approach as an immediate threat. A committed charge does not stop. Distinguishing that from a posturing mock charge requires years of specific field experience in that terrain with those animals. Amukelo Sitali had that experience. Celestia Vanbro did not. Operating under a legitimate firearm-free safari protocol, guide Amukelo Sitali used trained distraction tactics to draw a charging elephant away from Celestia Vanbro, sacrificing himself in the process, while investigators later confirmed his actions fully matched emergency procedure and cleared both the operator and Celestia of wrongdoing. I think about Amukelo Sitali every time I go back through this case. He was 31 years old. He had been flagging this situation by radio since day 2. He redirected her over and over, and every time she treated it as temporary, as excessive caution from someone who didn't understand her level of experience. The final case in this episode moves to northern India, to a licensed facility, a documented gait deficiency, and a visitor who had no interest in following the restrictions she had been given, and who put someone else directly in harm's way because of it. On August 8, 2016, at a private wildlife facility in Rajasthan, India, the morning visitor groups moved through designated tiger observation paths under heavy desert sunlight. The facility operated as a licensed conservation and breeding center with strict physical separation between public observation areas and a network of restricted service corridors running adjacent to the enclosures. Warning signs were posted throughout in multiple languages, and every visitor was briefed before entry. Staff-only zones were completely off-limits under all circumstances. Bengal tigers inside the complex retained the full behavioral range of their wild counterparts, territorial, acutely sensitive to unfamiliar movement in spaces associated with keeper routines, and capable of an immediate reactive response that provided no warning interval. Rowena Blackshaw, 42, a food and travel blogger from London, arrived at the facility on the morning of August 8th as part of a 3-week India content trip. She had visited 4 other animal-related destinations over the preceding weeks and had, by the time she reached Rajasthan, developed the specific confidence of someone who had pushed past enough restrictions without consequence to start treating rules as a negotiation. During the entry briefing, she asked whether media visitors had access to a closer viewing angle near the enclosures. Staff told her no. She asked whether an accompanied visit to the service corridor area could be arranged for professional content documentation. Staff told her no. She said she had been granted exactly that kind of access at 2 other facilities on this same trip, and asked whether an exception could be made. Staff confirmed it could not, and explained the operational reasons. She asked to speak to the facility director. Staff told her the director was not available that morning. She asked for a name and a callback. Staff provided the general facility contact information. She was issued a standard visitor pass and entered the property. Within 20 minutes of entering, a staff member redirected her away from an enclosure viewing barrier she had partially crossed. She had extended her camera over the top of a wall to capture a closer angle of the animals inside. She complied without confrontation, moved to the eastern viewing area, and within a short time was observed doing a version of the same thing at a different observation point. Prakash Yaluri, 29, was a facilities worker assigned to the Eastern Corridor section that day. The service corridor network ran adjacent to the large cat enclosures and was designed for controlled keeper access during scheduled maintenance and feeding windows, not public use of any kind. At one point in the corridor, a gate connected the public observation section to the restricted service passage. The gate was marked with restricted access signage in 4 languages. The repair had been logged, but had not been carried out before the public access period opened that morning. Rowena located the gate. She applied pressure. It gave way, and she entered the corridor. Prakash saw her enter from his position further along the passage and moved toward her immediately to escort her out. He advanced ahead of her position, placing himself between her and the section of the corridor running closest to the enclosure perimeter. That section contained a service access interface, a low-clearance area designed for keeper use exclusively during scheduled feeding transfers, when the tiger was separated under controlled protocol to the far side of the enclosure. No such separation had been conducted that morning. The tiger was not isolated. The service interface was within the animal's accessible range on that side of the perimeter. Bengal tigers can exceed 500 pounds and retain the full behavioral range of their wild counterparts, acute territorial awareness, and an immediate reactive response to unfamiliar movement in spaces they associate with specific keeper routines. The service corridor ran through the animal's territorial margin at exactly the point where the infrastructure was built to be closest to the enclosure. Prakash was in the enclosure-adjacent section of the corridor when the tiger responded to movement through the service interface. He sustained severe injuries to his upper body. Rowena, still near the gate she had entered through, retreated back through it and cleared the corridor. She was physically uninjured. Facility staff reached the corridor within minutes. Prakash was transported to the nearest regional hospital. He died from his injuries before stabilization was possible. He was 29 years old. The investigation confirmed the latch failure as a documented, unresolved maintenance deficiency that should have been corrected before public access opened that morning. Prakash's conduct was reviewed and confirmed entirely correct. He had identified the unauthorized entry and moved to escort the visitor out, which was exactly what his role required. He had not created the situation. Rowena was held for the duration of the investigation and subsequently deported from India.